If you do things well, do them better. Be daring, be first, be different, be just. To be different is a gift. To be ordinary is common. I don't want to have to think about what is right, I want to live right. And what that means to me is going to be different to some of my fans, some of their parents, and some other role models. Parents and schools should place great emphasis on the idea that it is all right to be different. Racism and all the other isms grow from primitive tribalism, the instinctive hostility against those of another tribe, race, religion, nationality, class, or whatever. You are a lucky child if your parents taught you to accept diversity. I was motivated to be different in part because I was different. The Declaration of Independence was always our vision of who we wanted to be, our ideal of freedom and justice, how we were going to be different, and what the American experiment was going to be about. I've never been one to want to stay the same. Quite the opposite, I relish the chance to be different and unique. When you've grown up always knowing that there's something that seemed to be different about you from most people, and not being able to understand until my mid-40s that what we were talking about here was autism, I've had to learn an awful lot about myself and what I can and can't do and what I can or can't cope with. Strategy is about making choices, trade-offs. It's about deliberately choosing to be different. Be different, stand out, and work your butt off. Any society where it's a crime or a hassle to be different is a society based on psychological fascism. If I feel like things are getting into a routine, I want them to be different. I need to keep improving and keep moving forward. The ongoing conflict between us has caused heavy suffering to both peoples. The future can and must be different. Both our peoples are destined to live together side by side, on this small piece of land. This reality we cannot change. People expect us to be different, but we're not. We're very similar people. And it's because we're so similar and close to each other that we make each other laugh. In fact, we make each other laugh more than we make anyone else laugh. I mean, I wasn't the best student in school. It would be different if I were to pursue music while I was already in school and doing things for my parents to be proud of, and music was a side thing. Being that I dropped everything to do music, they was not with it. It is not possible to design always the same. How to be different in each different place, that is the most important work and duty of the architect to find out. I am impressed with what happens when someone stays in the same place and you took the same picture over and over and it would be different, every single frame. Nobody's going to tell me how to be different, so stop asking me. Stop asking me what 2 plus 2 is. Everybody knows 2 plus 2 is 5. I dared to be different, I want to inspire others to do the same. In rallying, every curve, every hill may be different than you thought. That makes it interesting. If you want the present to be different from the past, study the past. If there's any message to my work, it is ultimately that it's okay to be different, that it's good to be different, that we should question ourselves before we pass judgment on someone who looks different, behaves different, talks different, is a different color. These days it's cool to be ethnic and to be different, but when I was a kid, it was not cool, at all. My friends would come over and my mom would make crepes with eggs, stuffed with mozzarella cheese, tomatoes and spinach. And they'd be like, "What is this?" I influence myself, because I always try to be different and stay in my own lane. The key to me is being different not for the sake of being different, but being the most authentic version of what you do. And definitely it takes a willingness to be different, because there was resistance for me early on, and I feel like that's usually the case when there's a certain paradigm or trend happening, and you step outside of that. Talking Heads were a big influence on my comedy. For David Byrne, every album had to be different. With Portlandia, every season has to be different. You gotta reinvent the look, all of it. I've worked with many directors, good ones and bad ones. So if I have a chance to work the good ones, I better put myself in their hands, and trust them, because that's my big opportunity to be different, and to be better than usual. You got to have a strong mind if you fall back. When you fall back, they going to count you out. So you got to have a strong mind and know your worth. When you come back, you've got to be different and even more better. Don't try to be different, just be good. To be good is different enough. To be one, to be united is a great thing, but to respect the right to be different is maybe even greater. Without going outside his race, and even among the better classes with their white culture and conscious American manners, but still Negro enough to be different, there is sufficient matter to furnish a black artist with a lifetime of creative work. I'm different, and I'm not afraid to be different. You're really looking for the truth of what the piece is about, and that's going to be different for different people. Diversity requires commitment. Achieving the superior performance diversity can produce needs further action, most notably, a commitment to develop a culture of inclusion. People do not just need to be different, they need to be fully involved and feel their voices are heard. Thanksgiving 2020, in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, is going to be different. In advertising, not to be different is virtually suicidal. When we lose the right to be different, we lose the privilege to be free. Since I don't look like every other girl, it takes a while to be okay with that. To be different, but different is good. Suppose that Unsolved Mysteries called you with news of a long-lost identical twin. Would that suddenly make you less of a person, less of an individual? It is hard to see how. So, why would a clone be different? Your clone would be raised in a different era by different people, like the lost identical twin, only younger than you. Constructive complaint requires only two things: that what you are complaining about should be different, and that it can be different. It sounds simple, but too often our protests fail this test. Could we change our attitude, we should not only see life differently, but life itself would come to be different. Normality is to be different. Every person is a different person, and one day you need to be aware of your difference. Aware that you are not the same as the others. That is to be normal. The only thing we know about the future is that it will be different. When we realize that human beings are entering the world constantly and that each being is stamped at the first complete breath with the planetary pattern then in the sky, everyone must necessarily be different from everybody else. I'm willing to roll the dice with my career to be different. The boy who expects every morning to open into a new world finds that today is like yesterday, but he believes tomorrow will be different. All he cares about is going out there with his Jack Daniels bottle. Nothing has changed. That's kind of sad. If David was doing better than he used to be, then that would be different. But it was a joke and he made it that way. Our philosophy is always to search for the best quality. That is something our father taught us. It's one way to be different from your competitors. You can try to be cheaper, or you can try to be better. My parents always told me never be a follower, always be a leader. It's very difficult to do, to step out and be different and not follow the norm. If you want what's best for your team, you gotta be different. I'm an identical twin, and I felt that with my twin brother, we sort of formed this unassailable force, and it gave me the confidence to be different. Even if I was a goofball, my twin brother was a goofball with me, so I didn't have to worry about fitting in as much. I was able to march to my own drummer. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.